Welcome back to the Edge. Well, it's come to my attention that some people think that waffling is all right. It's left or right or red or blue or whatever. Uh-uh. No, the problem with government, I happen to believe in government. And the guy that came along to change my mind about the Republican Party some years ago was Ronald Reagan. And I met him right here in Sarasota. I may have talked about this in a previous show somewhat. I shook hands with him. My wife shook hands with his wife, Nancy, at the Van Wezel Theater. Fact, not an opinion, a fact. And what I disliked about Ronald Reagan was what he did to California. He ruined California. And they're still suffering from what Reagan did then. He didn't believe in government, and he said so. When you don't believe in government, you say things like this: government is the problem, not the solution. Oh, then what is the solution? Not having government? Only idiots say things like that. So therefore, Ronald, you're an idiot. You have, unless you want a dictator, doesn't need government, who decides everything for the people. It's not of, by, and for the people. It's of the dictator, by the dictator, and for the dictator. And when you disrespect government, what do? You take it apart, piece by piece by piece. So, and the other thing you know about a leader is where he, in a democratic country like the United States, you can tell what he is by the first place he visits. Get this. Where did Reagan go the first place he went to? He went to Philadelphia, Mississippi, in 1980. What is Philadelphia, Mississippi in 1980? The home of the Klan. And why did he do that? He wanted the Republican Party to bring Democrats into the Republican Party based on race, based on separating people, based on race. He brought the Klan into the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, of all things. The man who emancipated the slaves is now replaced by a man who believes that people should be separated, like slaves were. That was Reagan. And he said, government's a problem, not the solution. Follow me. Follow my idea. So what did he do to change things? He inherited no debt. Get this, zero debt when Reagan took office from Jimmy Carter, terrible Jimmy Carter. I didn't vote in that election. I voted except for the primary. I voted in the primary because I was Republican. In 1980, I was Republican. I voted for George Bush Sr. When they decided on Reagan to run, I said, nope, that's a bridge too far for me. He wrecked California. How did he wreck California? What do Republicans do when they don't believe in government? They wreck the things for the people that benefit the people the most and take from the people thing that the rich people benefit the most from. So what did Reagan do? Well, he changed the basis for taxing people in their homes, real estate tax. And how did he do that? Little old ladies sitting on the beaches of California in 1905 bought their places for $5,000 or less. They're in their retirement, they're on Social Security, you have no trouble making their mortgage payments. And suddenly, and taxes were low, all that. Suddenly, Reagan comes along with Don Regan, who was his chief advisor, who happens to be from Sarasota. I think he died here. To change the way they tax people in California. How did he change it? You bought your property based on, and your taxes were based on the sale of your property at the time of the purchase. The rule became at the time of your purchase, the sale in your area, not your house, not of your house, but in your area. What did that do? Condos went up next door to the little old lady sitting on the beach, one after the other. Each condo was maybe 200,000 in those days. 200,000 is different than 5,000 that the little old lady paid for. And golly gee whiz, she was getting taxes based on 200,000 in her area or in region. Different ways they did that. So suddenly her house became taxable at a rate she couldn't afford to pay the taxes on that house. She was relying on her Social Security to pay very small payments, no mortgage payment at all, perhaps, but the taxes jumped so high, she no longer lived there. She was forced to sell her house. And that was copied by some other states. In Hawaii, did the same thing. Long and the short of it, Reagan wrecked real estate. The other thing he wrecked, California, when he took off as governor, had number 2 status in education in the state, in the country. It dropped to number 18. So I was walking in the mall in 1980, and I went to this table, and a guy at the table had a John Anderson thing. Now, the election hadn't happened yet. So I saw that John Anderson was being sponsored there. I went up to the table and told what I just told now to the people at the table, what Reagan had done. And the lady heard that, several people there, that would repeat what you said. I said, you didn't hear what I said? He said, yes, we heard it, but the man on your left has got a camera on his shoulder. He turned around and faced it at me. So I repeated all that. I forgot about it. It was on Sunday afternoon. So that Sunday night, they played it on TV. I didn't happen to see it. They had it on the TV for 5 minutes. That's a long time on local TV. It was channel 19 in Peoria, Illinois. The next morning, I'm walking into downtown of Peoria, and somebody yells across, "Hey, I thought you were a Republican." What are you talking about? Come over here. Tell me what you're going on about here. Yeah, I thought you were a Republican. Well, I haven't changed parties yet. Well, Reagan's going to be a great president. Well, why do you say that? Well, he's going to build the military. It's being torn down by Jimmy Carter. Oh, you know that? How do you know that? Well, I just know. He's a great American. I said, well, there are some things you probably don't know about Reagan in particular, like he's one of the betrayers and he gave information along with Humphrey Bogart to McCarthy Commission, who cost actors their jobs, accusing them of being communists, and then they lost their jobs and couldn't work. Both he and Bogart did that. He betrayed his fellow actors. He had no trouble doing that. He was a registered Democrat, and now he's a Republican. And when he decided to run, I considered myself a Lincoln Republican. I still do, of that mindset, but of the people, by the people, for the people, not of the few, by the few, for the few. That's what Reagan's about. And that follow people who follow him wants it of the few, by the few, for the few. That's what you do for dictators. And when you say government's a problem, not a solution, you're saying get rid of the problem. It's like cancer. It's a swamp. It's this, it's that. Call names to the government and discredit all of it. Unless, of course, you have Social Security. Unless, of course, you have Medicare. Unless, of course, you have a fire department. Unless, of course, you have a police department. All by socialistic taxes. When the people pay all the taxes for those different agencies, that is no different than any other socialism anywhere. So you define socialism that way. That's not communism, where the government produces everything and pays for everything that way. The corporate stay in place under socialism, and the taxes go for the services. That's what socialism is. Like your Social Security, if you're going to ever get there. If you don't believe it's going to come, just say the government's no good and they'll never pay you. But when they do, you're so glad to get it. And the same thing with Medicare. So anyway, I said this back in 1980. And the people asked me at the table at the time, would I become a spokesman for John Anderson? I said I would. So I went to a meeting in Peoria in a Regency Hotel there, and I walked in. Now, I happen to be a little familiar. I've seen enough movies and enough stuff about Hitler that I walked into a room with every fourth seat had a guy sitting with a hat on, a suit on, and a tie, and brown suits. Always said that, and they were every place in that room was like that. And so I said, so John Anderson is an independent. He's going to run against Reagan and against Carter. And the people said, no, he's one of us. I said, what does one of us mean? Well, us. I mean, you and me, or you and you. And they said, they just went silent. No sooner had that happened, this was in the afternoon, about 3 o'clock, this woman come bustling in and come to the podium and announce that I want you to understand. He pointed a finger. John Anderson is a Republican. He's not an independent. I stood up. I said, so why are you here? You're the former head of the planning for the Republican convention in San Diego. And you're saying that he's an avowed Republican running as an independent to take votes away from Carter. Is that what you're saying? I said, that's what you're saying. So it's all a charade. He's a phony. And he took 9% of the popular vote, which might have made a difference for Carter, maybe not. Nonetheless, it was a charade. And I never trusted the Republican Party as a whole ever since from that time, especially from Reagan forward. So on my show, I said Reagan will leave us in debt like you've never seen. And he'd cut the tax rate. The wealth tax existed at that time. And it was 75%. It's called the marginal tax rate. He cut it to 28%. And that's a cut of almost 50%. So when the seventh or eighth year of he won 2 terms. His second term, he left us with huge debt and a near market crash. Gold jumped hugely at that time. I bought gold, and he caused the crash with the S&L Savings and Loan Administration. Did a lot of bad things in the name of attacking Washington. It's a bad place. It's a swamp. It's all of that. No. It's where your services are if you want a democratic government. They're not going to come from an autocrat. He can't run everything. He can eliminate people who run things and say, we'll decide this when we feel like it. That's what autocrats do. And that's what Trump is. Trump is nothing more than Reagan revisited, doing much more damage to what we call service, public service, and civil service, which the people need. So you have the choice of a dictator or an autocrat, but the real test of a leader is the first place he visits. What was the first place that Ronald Reagan went to? I think I said it earlier. He went to Philadelphia, Mississippi, the home of the Klan. Racist to the core. And where did Trump go? To Saudi Arabia. Racist to the core. Against the West entirely. Willing to screw us against the wall. Willing to knock down the towers in New York. That's who he befriended. MBS, who had somebody chopped to pieces, a Washington reporter, cut to little pieces, an agonizing death, and enjoyed that. MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, the son of the king. That's what leaders that have no respect for the people do. They make friends with monsters. And do you think they're different? Tell me who your friends are. I'll tell you who you are. Believe me, if you make friends with bin Salman and you think and you praise him, which is what Trump has done, speaking what Trump actually did, he praised him. Maybe what he meant by MAGA is make it like Saudi Arabia, where women have no rights. That's a lot of money for a leader when you have that kind of power, or no women have no rights. There's an illusion that they give them some rights, like driving the car. That's all gone. The reason they went away. So people who don't know what the Muslim religion called Sunni is about, we're going to find out one day. But best friend of MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, who helped pay for 9/11 back in 2000. Remember that those towers came down from Saudi Arabian Sunni Muslims. That's who flew those planes. Who lived in Venice, Florida, long enough to learn how to fly at an airport practice place, just how to take off, not how to land, so they could crash into those buildings, 2 buildings, by the leadership of Saudi Arabia. Did that to this country, and our great leader Donald Trump danced with them. It was called what they call the sword dance in Saudi Arabia. First frigging place the son of a gun went to. So he wants us to be like Saudi Arabia? Maybe. Certainly not someone who's democratic, Who gives a damn about you? You really? You think the Saudi Arabians give a damn about poor people? Huh? They make slaves. Filipinos are there. They're slaves working in Saudi. They're sex traffickers. They're all the things that Epstein and people. In fact, Epstein used to fly into Saudi Arabia to deliver slaves to Saudi Arabia, and had parties on the way with the girls on the way, and picked up other slaves going somewhere else from Saudi Arabia. This is who leaders befriend and want to lead our country? No. MAGA, make America like Saudi Arabia? Maybe not, but damn, when you have friends like that, you know, don't be surprised that the enemies you have are right in under your armpit. Well, we'll take up another subject like that. And who wants to be like Mr. Trump? Mr. DeSantis. I'm thinking this love affair of Trump just might be on the wane. We saw another senator retire today, not going to run. Blunt from Missouri is not going to run. So you're going to see some real withering of what is called the Republican Party. Will that make it better for Democrats? I do not know. But if the party of the Klan went from the Dixiecrats to the Republican Party, and it did, I think it's time to get rid of the Klan. I think it's time to get rid of the relationship with Saudi Arabia. I think it's it's time to get rid of the people who support making friends from Saudi Arabia and the Klan. I think that's time. We saw what happened in January 6th. Klan members, the oath takers, the Proud Boys, those are Klan. Those are racist. And pretending they're not is, I'm sorry, just pretending like a child and not wanting to know. We'll see you the next time. Subscribe. Tell me what you think. Sorry about some of the things I had to say, but like the spine in my back, I'm strong enough to say them, and I'll say it to anyone. I'll debate with anyone. Thank you very much. Next time.